Hello and welcome to ITV News Meridian.
Tonight's headlines here in the southeast. A vast new lorry park in Kent is planned to stop queuing lorries blocking routes to the Channel ports. But where will it be built?
Fantastic, it's well needed. We've been screaming for it for years.
Kent's only Labour MP says growing abuse and intimidation means she may have to quit the party. And trusting your nose to sniff out spoilt milk.
Perfectly fine.
The supermarket scrapping its use-by dates to cut down on waste.
Smells it's just going off a bit.
I don't normally waste stuff. I'll use it.
Good evening. Villages and communities alongside the M20 corridor between London and the Channel ports are once again bracing themselves for bad news, with reports the government's considering a vast new lorry park. Delays at the Channel Tunnel and Dover have led to long queues on the M20 and A20, a situation that's been called dangerous and unacceptable.
There's no decision on where that park should be located yet, but hauliers that we've spoken to say it needs easy access to the motorway and port. And after years of argument and delay, the Department for Transport must make a decision soon. Kit Bradshaw has been following the story.
There are reports today that transport officials could once again be considering land close to the village of Stanford near Folkestone for a vast lorry park. Now, plans were abandoned back in 2017 for a large site there with space to hold some 3,000 HGVs. But with Dover Tap being used more and more since the start of the year, the Transport Minister Baroness Veer was asking Parliament today if those plans, which were abandoned back in 2017 after objections in the courts, were being considered once again for the Stanford site.
It is the case that we've asked National Highways to look at any and all land holdings that they may have in order to see if we can, find any new places. Indeed, they have got one, I want to say just north of the Dartford crossing, can't remember, that they're thinking about, developing. But I'll certainly go away and shake that tree and see if there's anything still there that might be useful.
So nothing definitive from the Minister there, but an admission that they're working with National Highways to identify potential lorry park sites in the southeast. Now, there is, of course, the very large Sevington Inland Border Facility near Ashford, but that's a border checkpoint to check paperwork for lorries and HGVs, these new rules that have come in since Brexit, of course. And what one Kent-based haulier told me earlier is it's not that kind of lorry park that they need, but they need secure facilities where lorries can park up and drivers can get a comfort break, get hot food and park their goods.
Fantastic, it's well needed. We've been screaming for it for years. I just hope it can accommodate all drivers, including women. I hope that it's to a high standard. It needs to be within 30 minutes of the Port of Dover. It has to be within easy reach of the M20 only, because the A2 is for the local residents, and we've got to keep everybody happy.
Now, I'm at one of Kent's newest lorry parks here on the Lim Industrial Estate. It has parking for a modest 40 lorries, and I'm joined by the General Manager now, James Tinkler. So, James, how much demand then is there for a facility like this? You only opened in the last few weeks.
It's huge. I don't think there's been a greater demand, to be fair, Kit.
And what kind of facilities then are on offer for drivers who pay to park up here?
With 24/7 security monitored by CCTV. We have wash, shower facilities. We have fuel on site to refuel. We have a truck wash on site to wash the trucks. It's a one-stop shop, and as well as customs clearance capacity and DEFRA inspection as well.
So lots on offer for the drivers. There's obviously the demand. Thank you very much for having us here today, James. And we have heard back from the Department for Transport. They say there are no plans for a new lorry park near Dover to ease congestion at the ports, but government sources saying that National Highways continue to work to identify potential sites at good strategic locations.
Kit Bradshaw reporting there. In other news, ferries could soon be manned by armed counter-terrorism officers. Firearms officers from the Civil Nuclear Constabulary have been asked by the Home Office to patrol cross-channel ferries out of Dover. While there's no known plot against British ferries, experts have suggested they are extremely vulnerable.
Investigations are underway into an attempted robbery in Ramsgate. Police have released CCTV images of a person they want to identify. A man was seen trying to gain access to a house in the Fodes Lane area on January the 16th.
Asylum seekers housed at the Napier barracks in Folkestone say it feels like a prison. Residents have told reporters they are sleeping in 20-bed dormitories separated by curtains. The military side is 130 years old, with the Home Office now preparing an alternative base at Manston Airport. It said it's made significant improvements.
The long-awaited Sue Gray report into parties in Downing Street was published today, or at least part of it was. She criticises failures of leadership and judgment, a culture of excessive drinking, and says Downing Street didn't observe the high standards expected of the British people during the pandemic.
The actual allegations aren't dealt with in detail in the report. Most of them, 12 in all, are being investigated by the police. So where does it all leave Boris Johnson? Over to our political correspondent, Phil Hornby. Phil, how are MPs from the South East reacting?
A lot of them are not happy, Andrew. The day began for Mr Johnson with a trip to Tilbury Docks in Essex. He was looking at the site of a new proposed free port, but I suspect he was wondering just how much deep water he is in. The answer is plenty. Tory MPs particularly angry about the fact that this report today has been diluted, and the Prime Minister will not promise to publish more details in due course. And when he got back to London, into the House of Commons, it was a pretty uncomfortable session for the Prime Minister.
I want to say sorry. And I'm sorry for the things we simply didn't get right, and also sorry for the way that this matter has been handled.
The British public aren't fools. They never believed a word of it. They think the Prime Minister should do the decent thing and resign.
And some MPs are very angry. Listen to this Conservative MP from the Midlands who told the Commons about an event he attended in May 2020. It wasn't a party in Downing Street, it was his grandmother's funeral.
She was a wonderful woman. As well as a love for her family, she served her community as a councillor, and she served Dartford Conservative Association loyally for many years. I drove for 3 hours from Staffordshire to Kent. Only 10 people at the funeral. Many people who loved her had to watch online. I didn't hug my siblings. I didn't hug my parents. I gave a eulogy, and then afterwards I didn't even go to her house for a cup of tea. I drove back 3 hours from Kent to Staffordshire. Does the Prime Minister think I'm a fool?
Phil, if there is a leadership contest in the Tory party, we already know who one of the candidates will be.
Yes, the Tunbridge and Morling MP, Tom Tugendhat, made it known at the weekend that he would throw his hat in the ring. No surprise to viewers of this programme, because he told me of his ambitions nearly 5 years ago. Do you want to be Prime Minister one day?
It would be a huge privilege to serve my country in any way that I possibly could.
That's a yes.
Of course. I bought a ticket. Why wouldn't I want to win the lottery?
Meanwhile, Phil, troubles for one of our region's Labour MPs.
Yes, the only Labour MP in Kent, Rosie Duffield, who's saying tonight that she might leave the party. She's so fed up with the abuse she's getting, particularly on social media, for her stance on trans issues. She says she's not getting support from the party leader, Sir Keir Starmer, or from other members of the party. There have been claims that she's spending too much time away from her constituency, which she denies. The Labour Party in the South East told us today they're doing everything they can to help and support Rosie Duffield. But she has her problems tonight, as does the Prime Minister, who in the next few minutes will be meeting Tory MPs to try to shore up his support.
Phil Hornby, thank you very much.
There's disappointment tonight after the University of Brighton confirmed it's closing its facilities in Eastbourne. Around 2,000 of its students are currently based in the town.
The university says the buildings there are no longer suitable, but pulling out will end an association with Eastbourne going back over 40 years, as Malcolm Shaw reports.
It's induction week for Joe and Sam, who are starting their degrees in nursing. They're at the University of Brighton, but will be studying in Eastbourne, among the last students who will spend all 3 years here before the university pulls out of the town.
I feel really lucky actually to be the last ones, because I wouldn't be, if I'd had to travel to Brighton, I probably wouldn't be doing the nursing degree because I have young children. So it's quite a trek from Hastings, where I live.
It's a shame because the businesses won't be as busy with the uni students coming down from Hastings, Brighton. Yeah, it's a shame.
The university currently has around 2,000 students in Eastbourne on 3 main sites, including this one, which specialises in sports science. But it's feared many local businesses will suffer when the students and staff have gone.
Particularly for the nighttime economy, for the leisure, for the retail economy, coffee shops, that spending power, if you like, for a town the size of Eastbourne is really useful and valuable.
The university is spending almost £200 million redeveloping its facilities in Brighton, with an extra 800 rooms for students, new academic buildings and even a footbridge spanning the busy Lewis Road completed this weekend. Closing its facilities in Eastbourne is part of that consolidation.
Eastbourne is a strong part of our history and our heritage. But moving forward, we need to ensure that we're also committed to our ambitions around sustainability and accessibility. And sadly, our estate in Eastbourne is some of our least accessible and least sustainable.
We are working with the University of Brighton. They've rejoined the Chamber of Commerce, which is great, so they're reaching out to us. We're going to be holding various meetings at their campus to stay in touch. But really what we will be doing is working with the other businesses that are still here.
The university carried out a 10-week public consultation and received more than 700 responses. It says the majority were in favour of the plan.
We objected, so did East Sussex County Council and Team East Sussex. But now we'll be approaching other universities to see if we can get some interest in getting someone else to set up a campus here. It's an ideal place to locate.
The University of Brighton will close its facilities in Eastbourne by the start of the 2024-25 academic year. Malcolm Shaw, ITV News, Eastbourne.
You're watching ITV News in the Meridian region. Coming up, borrowing money from loan sharks, why so many get dragged into the trap.
You can find more on today's top stories in the region throughout the day on our website. Go to itv.com/Meridian. You can call us on 0808 1010 095. And remember, you can also follow us on Facebook and Twitter. Many restrictions on care homes come to an end today. Those restrictions were introduced to prevent the spread of coronavirus among the elderly in residential homes.
Well, they've been a source of anger and unhappiness among both the residents and their families. And earlier I spoke to Dee Johnson from the Thornbury Care Home in Uckfield, and I asked her how she feels about the changes.
I am very scared. I'm possibly more scared than I was 2 years ago, because none of us knew what was ahead of us. It is not a crisis for the residents because my residents are fully vaccinated. It is a crisis for manpower because in the event of a member of staff testing positive, they have to have 10 days off and I have to cover that shift. And in addition to if the COVID comes into the care home, then I have to put on extra members of staff because we have to segregate the area down. And there isn't a magic band of staff who are just going to sail in the door saying, "Woo, I'm here."
So how have your staff reacted to that and the families?
My families have been amazing, that they know that they trust me with the safekeeping of their relative, and that part of that safekeeping has been to try and keep COVID out of the care home.
But all your staff were vaccinated because there was the compulsory vaccination in place. Was that a problem for you? Did you lose any staff over that issue?
No. I had 2 or 3 members of staff who had to think twice and maybe made that decision 3 months down the line. But once they saw that we were actually all fine, they all came forward. My staff have been amazing.
So do you think these changes are too much too soon?
I think yes, because of this 10-day need to self-isolate. It's really hard. I said I can't get agency staff, so and we've got to make sure we ensure that all the residents are cared for to the best of our ability and keep them safe.
So how are your residents feeling, though? It must be for them a huge relief that they can finally see all of their family.
They've been able to see a fair proportion of their family for quite a while, to be honest, because we took some draconian steps. So they're fine. They feel very grateful for being so protected, to be honest. And as I said, I've had nothing but support from my relatives, from my residents and from my staff.
Well, good luck with the next few weeks. Dee Johnson, thanks so much for joining us this evening.
That's my pleasure.
Now, there are concerns that people across our region could be at risk of falling prey to loan sharks who are using social media platforms to target potential victims.
These criminals lure people in with attractive loan offers, but quickly resort to intimidation, threats and violence to enforce repayment. Borrowers are then trapped in a spiral of debt.
Well, with many people feeling the pinch after Christmas, police are warning people to be vigilant. Catherine Walker has our report.
It's early in the morning and police are raiding the house of a suspected loan shark.
Come in, please. Thank you. Thank you. Who else is on the premises?
It's one of many investigations across the country by the Illegal Money Lending Task Force. The suspect, who we can't name for legal reasons, is accused of giving short-term, high-interest loans to people who simply couldn't pay him back.
Illegal money lending is horrendous. The impact on victims it just ruins lives. What we see is these loan sharks or illegal lenders think that they're a community service, but they're not. What they're there doing is ripping people off who can least afford it.
Illegal loan sharks are unlicensed moneylenders, and research shows they're increasingly turning to social media to target potential victims. It's thought around 300,000 households across the UK have been the victim of a loan shark since records began in 2014. 1 in 10 of those met their lender on social media platforms like Facebook or Snapchat, or through dating websites.
My name is Liam. My mate gave me your phone number and said you might be able to help me out with some money, like a loan.
Using cash confiscated from criminals, the task force is running campaigns across the country to teach people how to spot an illegal loan. The advice from this centre in Horsham in Sussex is to check if your lender is properly licensed.
If they're desperate, I think seek advice from Citizens Advice. We are confidential and independent, and we can look at all the options for them, given their circumstance, and really help them to make that an informed decision with good advice and information sources for them to choose.
It was a quiet Wednesday afternoon in the old Victorian library.
As well as warning adults, the task force has also written a book for young people. They hope tech-savvy students can pass the advice on to their parents.
We are trying to get a message out there about loan sharks. Loan sharks are dangerous, loan sharks are illegal. And people, especially where they have low language, low literacy and low digital skills, adults may not realise that actually there is another way. And that's what we're trying to do, is to make people aware that there is another way out there. It doesn't have to be an approach to a loan shark.
And if you do find yourself victim to a loan shark, reach out and seek help. The message from the police is simple. They will stop illegal lenders and take loan sharks off the streets. Catherine Walker, ITV News.
Now, you may notice something different when you pick up a pint of milk from a certain supermarket in the southeast today. The use by label is no longer there. That's because Morrison's has replaced them with a best before date and is encouraging customers to sniff the milk instead.
They say it'll stop millions of pints being wasted every year, and a dairy farmer from Sevenoaks says it's about time too. With more, here's Joe Caution.
How much attention do you pay to the labels on your pint of milk? If that answer is a lot, then from today you'll notice a slight change to the bottle purchased from Morrison's. Around 490 million pints of milk is poured down the sink every year because customers stick to the use-by date. And the supermarkets have become the first in the UK to try to reduce that.
It's hoped by asking customers to use a sniff test instead, they'll use it for longer. This milk had a use-by date of yesterday. A slight whiff, but nothing to put me off my cereal. So let's see if shoppers here agree.
It smells, it's just going off a bit.
I'd use it. I don't normally waste stuff. I mean, we're old school, we are, aren't we?
If it smells okay, tastes okay, looks okay,
you can eat it or drink it.
Yeah, I feel like unless it smells off, then yeah, I would.
And it appears to taste good enough for the calves too. This dairy farm hope the changes will not only reduce what goes to waste, but the mileage that goes into delivering it.
We're then literally getting it to a milk bottle on the very day that they're being milked. And that's what it used to be like in the old days. You know, you used to have milk going into a bottle and then doing around with it. Then if we can do it more locally, if we've got local dairies like us that can supply locally and you buy locally, then just imagine it. You know, we've got our electric van going a few miles down the road compared to articulated lorries travelling hundreds of miles. So, you know, for the environment, it's got to be a massive plus.
So is a slight stink safe to drink? Well, some food scientists believe the classic sniff test may not be so effective after all.
The use-by dates are there for a reason. Most of the people that they get food poisoning from different foods, they never smell anything. However, this is a matter of statistics and a matter of chance. So if you treat your bottle well and you don't abuse it, let's say, you don't keep it very long outside the refrigerator, you might be able to consume it a few days afterwards. But how many are these days, you cannot really say.
Plenty of food for thought then, balancing the safety risk with the impacts on the environment. Something for you to ponder over your next brew. Joe Caution, ITV News.
Well, we asked you what you think about the scrapping of use-by dates on milk. Sue Glazier said, I don't take any notice anyway. I get enough for the week and freeze it. So by the time I get to the last carton, it's officially out of date. But really, it's fine to use.
That's a good idea. Maria Cluer said, how will we know we're not buying milk that's been sat on a shelf for weeks? It is a good question, Maria, isn't it?
Yep. And Steve Masheter said, as an anosmic, that's someone whose sense of smell is impaired, this doesn't help whatsoever. Do I just have to wait until it goes lumpy instead?
Hopefully not. And thanks as always for letting us know your views, and you can join in the conversation on our Facebook page. Holly joins us now. Holly, it was the big garden bird watch at the weekend. We appealed for people to send in their photos. Did they?
We have had lots and lots, so I thought we could take a look at some. And I'm going to also furnish you with a few bird facts that I've come across today. So let's start off with this lovely photo. This came in from Peter John Wilson, a lovely sparrow. Now, did you know sparrows have suffered a 71% decline in recent years? They used to be our commonest bird. This is despite the fact they're incredibly adaptable and have been found living 2,000 feet underground in coal mines.
So why are they declining?
Well, it's not really known. It's one of the mysteries. A lot of our birds are declining, actually, and scientists have ideas, but they don't really know the idea. This next one is a pheasant, thought not to be native to Britain, but brought by the Romans for food. We've got a lovely long-tailed tit here sent in by Lee Churchill. Tiny little things, 9 grams, less than a pound coin.
Oh,
really small. Lovely photo, though. This is a starling sent in by Mark Warner. Can you see the base of its beak is blue?
Yeah.
Oh, yes.
That means it's a male. If it was pink, it would be female.
They look amazing close up, don't they?
We've got a collection here. We've got blue tits, a coal tit and a woodpecker. Woodpecker's drum to communicate, to attract a mate and so forth. Finally, I've got a lovely robin redbreast here from Anthony Morris. Now, the breast is actually orange, but in the 16th century, we didn't have a word for orange until they started importing them. So redbreast was as close a description as they could get.
Brilliant. I'm loving these facts.
Yeah.
They're fantastic. Thank you so much. Right, will we get sunshine to see all of these birds? Let's find out. Here's Holly.
Feels like home, whatever the weather. Valent Boilers and Heat Pumps sponsors ITV Meridian Weather.
A bit of a different feel, I think, this week compared to the sort of weather we've had of late. I'm sure you noticed the wind today and through this week, often quite blustery. In fact, Thursday night we could see some quite squally winds for a time as a weather front comes through. Milder, turning milder for a few days before chillier conditions take charge on Friday. So this weather front approaching tonight, and then we're in a wedge of quite mild air, really. It's called a warm sector. Quite a squeeze in the isobars, so we have got quite a brisk wind. This feature, though, moves through Thursday night. That brings some squally winds and some heavy rain for a time, and then chillier air tucks in for Friday. Out there at the moment then, well, with largely starry skies overhead, temperatures take a bit of an early tumble. But then thickening clouds, some outbreaks of rain, and values start to recover as you head towards dawn. So 6 to 8 degrees by the end of the night, certainly a frost-free start to our Tuesday, although a bit of a damp one in places. Quite a breezy wind around for tomorrow, less strong I think than today. Quite cloudy skies as well. You might see a few spots of rain, but I think once that early rain clears through, the bulk of the day largely dry. Bit of brightness coming through at times, and despite the breeze, I do think it'll be milder than today by a few degrees, perhaps 11, 12, something like that. Our high tide times, what have we got? Hastings at 11:05 and again at 11:30 as we head into the evening. So a few days of sort of similar-ish weather, I think. Quite cloudy, quite breezy, quite mild as well. Then Thursday night, that weather front comes through, some squally winds, some heavy rain for a time, and then chilly but brighter with some showers for Friday.
Valent sponsors ITV Meridian Weather.
And in just a moment, the ITV Evening News with Mary Nightingale, who is outside Downing Street.
Stacey has our late news. For now, though, from the team here at ITV Meridian, thank you so much for watching. Bye-bye.
Good night.